Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started now, if that's okay. Everybody's here, I think. All right, so welcome back to Colorado Tailgate Talks. Today we are talking about hearing protection, and here is why we're talking about it. Workers in any industry who are exposed to high levels of noise can suffer permanent hearing loss. It's also important to consider that prolonged exposures can also, day to day to loud noises can also lead to gradual but permanent hearing loss as well. Occupational noise is sometimes referred to as a stealth long-term hazard because it's a painless, gradual process and you don't know it's happening until it's really too late. I know that you all don't fall under the OSHA standards for, practicing at your workplace, but your agencies are still obligated to keep you safe from known hazards. OSHA is the best place to get safety information, whether you fall under their purview or not. And here's what they say about hearing protection. So according to OSHA, 22 million workers are exposed to potentially damaging noise at work each year. That's a lot of people. U.S. businesses pay more than $1.5 million in penalties annually for not protecting workers from noise. And hearing losses directly impacts the quality of life, not only for those workers, but also for their families. Workers who are exposed to high levels of noise can suffer permanent hearing loss, and then sometimes not even surgery or a hearing aid can help. In addition, even repeated exposures to loud noise for just short periods of time can add up to permanent hearing damage. So this is what the standard says. The employer shall administer a continuing effective hearing conservation program whenever noise exposures equal or exceed an 8-hour time-weighted average sound level of 85 decibels without regard to the use of personal protective equipment. So what that means is, and this came right out of the standard, that means that the important thing for you to remember is 85 decibels. Now, 85 decibels just gets you to a hearing conservation program. It's about 90 decibels that you can be exposed to for an 8-hour time period. So this means that anytime you're exposed to sound that exceeds that in an 8-hour time period, you are potentially putting yourself at risk for hearing loss. So this chart shows the decibel levels for some fairly common sounds, everything from a pin dropping to a rocket launch. And in the middle, you'll see the types of sounds you're regularly exposed to at work, right? You'll notice that there's a chainsaw is kind of at the high end of this chart, and that has a decibel level of 125. Do you folks operate a chainsaw? Are you using hearing protection when you're operating your chainsaw? You might want to think about that. Or and doing any of these other things. Are you welding? Are you using a belt sander, hand drill? Any of those things that could impact your hearing. So just looking at these photos here, you'll see one is a huge explosion that may damage your hearing loss in one blast or repeated blasts like that over time. And it may not always be temporary. If you're exposed to things like this and you're not using PPE, you'll probably experience hearing loss. And it'll be that gradual stealth kind that you won't notice. But whether it's a single blast or repeated use of a tool like this jackhammer or a chainsaw or whatever it is you're using, that type of hearing loss is cumulative. It progresses over time without protection. And the key to all of this, the one thing you should really think about is that all of it, every bit of it, is preventable. So let's look at how this breaks down, by the hour per task. So you can run a push mower, right? You can see the push mower here. Where is it? There's the mower. You can run a push mower for about 8 hours because it falls into that 90 decibel level. You'll remember, we said 85 was for a hearing conservation program. 90 is the limit for how long you can be exposed for 8 hours. Look at the next one. Look how it changes when you pick up a jackhammer. So this you can only operate for a half hour without protection, right? So that's 110. You can look down on this chart here and you'll find a jackhammer is the same as a rock band of all things, and it's 110 decibels. So you go from 90 decibels right, in 8 hours to just up to 20 decibels, and it's reduced to a half hour. That's as long as you can be exposed to that without PPE or hearing protection. The chainsaw, again, that's off the charts. So you can see a chainsaw over here, right down here, 125 decibels. You can only run that for less than a quarter of an hour, so only a couple of minutes at a time without damaging your hearing, without PPE, right? So you can see in the picture here, the guy's got earplugs in. Almost all of these folks are using hearing protection. So there are typically three ways to mitigate hazards in the workplace, right? And these are any hazards, whether it's hearing protection or anything else. You use engineering controls first, right? If you can't eliminate the hazard, right? Since we can't engineer the noise away, we would go to administrative controls, right? Those are things like how long can an employee be exposed without needing protection? And then we manipulate our employees that way. And then the last thing you do is PPE, right? Engineering control. It's always in this order. You always engineer them away. If you can't, you use administrative controls, and then you use PPE as a last resort. You try to eliminate the hazard completely, and if you can't, you use PPE. So like I said, since we can't engineer away the noise, right? We can't change the process to eliminate the noise. That option isn't available for our purposes. So you can get away from using PPE by using administrative controls. And in this case, it would be to lessen the number of hours employees were exposed to hazardous noise levels. So in the case of a push mower, you don't have to do much, as long as you're not really running it for more than 8 hours at a time, you're probably okay. And generally, they don't see you as doing a continuous task for 8 hours without stopping or being away from the noise for some period of time. So you can do it, and you can alternate 2 or 3 people. So if you need to do the jackhammer, right? So that one that you can't be exposed to for very long, or the chainsaw, can't do it for very long at all. You can alternate 2 or 3 people in and out to limit their exposures, right, to the amount that they're allowed. But that's the idea behind administrative control. So there are ways to manipulate your employees so that they're not exposed for the time that they're not allowed to, but you still can't get rid of the hazard. So the noise is still going to be there. So how do you know the decibel levels of your workplace or your tasks? Well, there's an app for that. You can go to the NIOSH website, and I'll put those on the slide at the end, and I think this will be available to you later. You'll also be able to see those as well. So you can go to the NIOSH app and you can download theirs. And the CDC has, there's a lot of them, but those are 2 that I noticed online that were pretty good. They'll give you the actual decibel levels for the area that you're in, as long as you have a phone that, has the ability to, can hear you, right? So download one of these free apps, see what your decibel levels are and whether or not you should be using hearing protection, and then decide what type is best for you and your employees. And you can see, well, first of all, you can spend a lot of money on some of these, or get the free app. I mean, I'm going to recommend you get the free app. Don't spend money on noise levels. Okay, here's the different types of hearing protection you can use. 4 basic types. So you have earplugs, earmuffs, inserts, and plugs. The 2 most common for our types of work are earplugs and earmuffs, like the ones you see here on this slide. Earplugs, these are actually inserted into the ear canal, and they fit tightly against your eardrum to actually block out any kind of sound. They come in all different sizes, shapes, and materials, foam, rubber, whatever you've got, there's all different ones. They can the most common type of hearing protection used by almost everyone at some point during their lifetime. I think everyone has probably used one of these squeezy foam plugs or something like this that you can just sort of screw into your ear and get keep the noise out. The disadvantage to these is that they're one-time use, some of them, and they need to be replaced, right? So even if they're not one-time use, the ear muffs, you can use over and over again, but these over here, these plugs, these are probably going to be disposable. Earmuffs, these consist of 2 cups that enclose your ears and are connected by a headband, right? So they're held on there by some type of headband. Sometimes they can have a microphone in them if you need to communicate with someone else. Those are a little more expensive type, but generally noise canceling earmuffs look pretty much like this. They can be adjusted to fit anyone's head, so they're great for anybody if you're sharing them in the workplace. They block the sound coming in from both sides of your head, whether you're, you know, whichever. The downside to using earmuffs is that it could cause some discomfort after wearing them for too long, right? You feel your ears kind of squished up against your head. And it depends on how well they're fit. So you need to get them to fit well. So those are the two basic types. Here you've got some custom molded plugs. You've got headbanded ear plugs. You've got these disposable ones here that you just, you know, these guys here that you just plug into your ear. And then you've got these banded muffs that go right over your head. So if you're looking to purchase hearing protection, there are a few things you should consider before buying. First of all, make sure that the noise canceling device fits and is secure on your head so that it doesn't, so it stays there. You guys are going to be moving around. You're doing all kinds of things. There's lots of vibration. There's lots of activity. It needs to stay on. The ear cups need to be large enough for both your ears and the background noises. I'm sorry, for both your ears and to provide a comfortable seal against those background noises. And finally, make sure that they don't get hot, that you're not wearing earmuffs that are going to make your ears hot and sweaty, and they'll start sliding around on your head and causing you all kinds of discomfort. All right, that is about it for hearing loss. So key points for today. It is entirely preventable. I don't know how many of you, if you've listened to me talk before, I am all about preventing injuries and illnesses, and this is one that is entirely preventable, and it's got to be done. 85 decibels or more doesn't require protection. It requires a protection program. 90 decibels requires protection, or over 90 requires protection. Noise level apps are free and available to everyone online, and your job is loud and requires some type of protection. Right? It doesn't matter how long you're doing it. Use the PPE to protect your ears. If you're not going to, sit there and time yourself or do any of those things, just put the earplugs in. Makes it a lot easier. Here are the resources that I got the information from. You can find the CDC and the NIOSH apps for noise, for decibel reading right there. And thank you all for attending the Colorado LTAP Tailgate Talk. I hope you found the hearing protection safety topic helpful and that you incorporate it into your daily routine. Hearing loss is preventable, and taking the steps to protect your hearing is all entirely up to you. So thank you all.
Thanks, Sue.
All right. Any questions, anybody? Anything in the chat? No, everybody's good? Okay. I guess we'll see you guys all next time. Be safe out there.